And welcome to another edition, a Friday edition of Defo on 5. Jeff DeForest and Mike Lubie Lubitz. And I find this almost incomprehensible that we could be through the first round of the National Football League draft and have all 32 picks in. Now, the Dolphins were out of the first round of the draft. I guess was one of the picks gone because of the Jalen Ramsey deal? Was
Yes.
that one? And the other one was lost in the most ridiculously obscene of fashions.
No, Jalen
As,
Ramsey didn't give up first rounder.
oh, they didn't?
I know I forget his name. The defensive end from the Broncos.
Yeah.
Bradley Chubb. The Bradley Chubb deal.
Bradley Chubb deal. That was one of our picks. The other one was lost on the absurdity that the Dolphins were entertaining. I mean, what is it with Stephen Ross? Who the hell is talking to this guy? Not only were entertaining the idea of bringing in Tom Brady, an aging Tom Brady, who had already won his Super Bowl in Tampa and wasn't going to win another one. Well, was that fairly apparent? That Brady was a shell of his former self as he played this year. Although he had a couple of dramatic comebacks, but in general, he just looked horrible. So that would have been the Brady that we had this year. Instead, we decided to talk to him illegally outside the parameters and the guidelines of anything that would be considered kosher, Stephen Ross, by the National Football League, relatively liberal in these matters, where, I mean, things happen, clandestine meetings all the time. Nobody says boo about it. I bet we don't know about 10% of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that would be considered out of bounds from the sanctimonious rules that they have about not tampering with players, which we all know everybody is doing. All right. So Stephen Ross invites Tom Brady and his agent out on a yacht. They try and introduce him to Brian Flores. Flores says, I can't talk to this guy. They say, well, you know what, Flores, you're fired. Fuck you. We don't need you. And hey, never mind that you won 5 games with that team that should have never even been close in any ball game and stormed your way towards the second half or through the second half of the season and then came back and did just as well as we were going to do with our new head coach, our new genius. You're thinking, okay, that was well worth it to have that meeting with Tom Brady to lose a first round pick. But normally we'd be talking a lot about that, except for the fact that we still have teams alive in the postseason from the so called winter sports lineup, including tonight's big Game 6, a pivotal Game 6 involving the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. Now, we actually had to put our dental records out on social media, Luby, because that was the only way you could identify us after we torched everybody with our selections the other night.
That was Wednesday.
That was just Wednesday, really. I mean, we were that embarrassed just as recently as Wednesday. That's incredible. Well, we thought that the Miami Heat had zero point 0.0 Blutarski numbers in terms of a chance of beating the Milwaukee Bucks in that game. In fact, I had the Heat losing the series, even after being up 3-1, something that never happens in the NBA. Once in a blue moon. Every other leap year, you might have a sniff of somebody coming back from being down 3-1. Atlanta tried to do it last night. They couldn't do it. They fell short against the Boston Celtics, although they had them on the ropes a little bit.
They did. And
Showing you that everyone in the East is vulnerable in some sense, right? You have Boston and Philadelphia left in the one series, and some would say, well, that's the series that will decide who wins the Eastern Conference.
we'll see.
And the Knicks and the Heat now going to go after each other. And, kind of interesting. It starts on Sunday. My New York Post has outlined all of the aggravation that took place between the Heat and the Knicks back in the day. But, I mean, the last real entry is in 2012, and that involved Amari Stoudemire trying to beat the crap out of a fire extinguisher, which, guess what? It wasn't even a split decision. It was a TKO, fire extinguisher coming out on top as he has like a major cast on his arm. You go back and they have a picture here. I don't know if you can make it out, people, if you're watching on the video stream here on 5 Reasons, of Jeff Van Gundy wrapped around the ankles.
Yeah.
That was probably the greatest, right? Wasn't it? I mean, Jeff Van Gundy looking like a schnauzer, chasing a mailman around the ankles of Alonzo Mourning after that skirmish with Larry Johnson. They should have just let the two guys duke it out. Nobody could land a punch. It was amazing. Basketball players are absolutely the worst fighters in all of sports. Baseball players all go out there, and then it becomes, just a giant pile up. And, sometimes, unfortunately, somebody gets hurt. But they even get hurt in celebrations, baseball players. They get hurt no matter what. They get hurt getting off the bus. Giancarlo Stanton, Miami, wow. Yeah, these steps are a little bit, lengthy, aren't they? I mean, shouldn't they be a little tighter? So you can't count baseball players in fighting. Hockey players, we know, legendary. On skates, they're throwing punches like they were going 12 on Oscar De La Hoya. Football, we know they can fight, although the stupidity of it when a guy takes a swing at a guy who's wearing a helmet w- with a giant face guard, you're thinking, okay, yeah, maybe a little discretion might be better served there. And of course, then you have basketball players who never land a punch. They never. It doesn't matter how close they are. Doesn't matter how big they are. It doesn't matter how muscular they are. It doesn't matter how athletic they might be. They never land a punch. You'll never see, except for that arbitrary time, unfortunately, where Rudy
Janovich.
Tomjanovich nearly went down. But that wasn't really in a brawl. Because I happened to be watching that game on TV. I was living in LA at the time, and Kermit Washington kind of just turned around as things were getting dicey, and it was almost that. It seemed like it was just blind bad luck. If you could have, can you have blind luck? Yes. Can you have blind bad luck? I believe so. That he made that kind of contact with Rudy Tomjanovich, who was streaming by at the time, and became a very famous incident. I guess what you had a fist fight at the Garden, with Alonzo Mourning. We just talked about that with Jeff Van Gundy. You had the Houston shot, the Allen Houston shot, which everybody ran out of the building. I think that was a best of five series. Was that still best of
Yes,
five?
yes.
That's going back into the late '90s.
Yep.
And then the Heat. Let's see. For the third straight season, the Knicks and the Miami Heat, the Miami season ended in their own building. This time in the second round in a classic 7-game series in which all 7 games are decided by 8 points or fewer. That's because they only scored 8 points in those games. And then, of course, the rivalry kind of dissipated a little bit after the King showed up here and said he was taking his talents to South Beach. The Heat got really good. The Knicks suddenly tailed off, and that was it. Nobody really cares about it, except they've resurrected all of these bad feelings, these ill feelings in the New York Post today. I don't know what the local papers did. At least they do have Ira Winderman still covering a local team here in the Sun Sentinel. And I don't know, does the Miami Herald follow the Heat at all? Do they have Barry Jackson sniffing stuff out? Not
Yes,
sure.
they follow the Heat. Yes.
So you have that Heat, Knicks, and then Boston, Philly to decide who comes out of the Eastern Conference. Some things still unsettled in the West as to who's going to be involved in the conference semifinals. You have Golden State looking very positive there. I'm not sure. I mean, can Memphis bounce back from 3-1 down and beat the Lakers? It's possible, is it not? I mean, could they not win this game in LA? They dominated this game 5 to bring it to 3-2. So I don't know. They're in there with a shot. What do you think about the Panthers tonight after that bold prediction we made last Wednesday that they had no chance whatsoever to beat the Boston Bruins? You would think that logic would dictate, Mike Lubie Lubitz, that the Bruins would never, in this season where they were historically good, lose 3 games in a row under any circumstances, whether it was playoff pressure, back and forth on the road. Now, they would have to lose 3 in a row while losing 2 on the home ice, but well, we know this home ice doesn't mean as much in the National Hockey League as home court does in the NBA, as evidenced by the fact that you did have the Devils last night win their game at home against the Rangers. They've won 3 straight in that series. After being absolutely annihilated in the first couple of games, they've come back and they've held the Rangers to next to nothing. In fact, it wouldn't be surprising to see Gerard Gallant's gear being thrown off yet another bus after the way the Rangers have fallen apart in this series. But that series had all 4 teams that had played on the road winning in the first 4 games. And in this Boston Bruins series against the Panthers, 4 out of the 5 games have gone to the road team. So I don't know. What do you make about tonight? What do you think? Is it over as of tonight? Is it a pipe dream? That whole Cinderella story with Alex Lyon went out the window. Does Bobrovsky revert back to being the big flopper that he is, with goals galore being scored by the Boston Bruins, and they, sort of dodge a little bullet there? Yeah, the Panthers put a little heat on them, but not enough to be of any great level of concern. Bruins in 6. Does that sound logical tonight? What do you think?
It's hard for me to believe the Panthers will lose all 3 games at home. Like, that's the one saving grace for me, is that I think they're going to get 1 at home. Like, are you going to really win 2 in Boston and not win 1 at home? So I tend to lean that the Panthers will pull tonight out and then lose game 7. Like, I don't see them winning 3 in a row, but they could win 2 in a row. So I can see them winning tonight and then losing. Boston, I think, would just bring out the kitchen sink in game 7. And I think they would have no shot in game 7. But
Yeah, you know what you have to do, though, Libby? You realize how you have to approach this.
Right.
1 game at a time. One game at a time. That's all you got to
Yes,
do. Just if you're the
yes.
Panthers, it's one game at a time. If you're the Bruins, it's one game at a time. They can't sit there and think that they have two shots at this thing. So that'll make it, an interesting crossroads of approaches tonight as the Bruins and the Panthers go at it in game number 6. I'm glad that game comes up so quickly. All right, the draft was conducted yesterday. There was little local interest in this.
The first round.
First round of the draft. Well, I mean, I don't know. Do people pay attention after the first round? I guess they do. You're going to
I
find
will.
good players.
It's the first time the Dolphins are drafting.
Oh yeah. What do they pick? Like, do they pick tomorrow? When do they pick? They have a
Today.
second round pick.
Yeah,
They do.
51.
They do have a second round pick. That's okay. I'm not sure how much they're going to improve their team with this second round pick. You would hope they might be able to get something. There were some surprises. I guess the resolution of the Lamar Jackson thing took place right before the draft. How about that? Brett Tesser always tells us that in the NFL, nothing gets done in terms of a business aspect of the NFL. Nothing gets done until it's absolutely necessary. And it must have become absolutely necessary because all of a sudden, I guess there was some compromise as Lamar Jackson didn't get all of his money guaranteed, but he signed the biggest contract in NFL history per season pay. And it seems like there's always going to be the next one's going to eclipse whatever the record was previously set. So Lamar Jackson gets like $250 million, $180 million guaranteed. And then he gets a wide receiver in the first round of the draft. He
Yeah.
had a slew of wide receivers go like 19 through 19, 20, 20, and 21. 4 in a row were selected. And they all drew high praise from Mel Kiper, who, by the way, is having one of the weirdest hairline recession experiences that I've ever seen. When you get that Dracula thing in the front and the rest is just all gone, but you still have that one strip. I'm not sure it isn't advantageous to just shave that off your forehead. And just look like LeBron James, where the hairline's going back, and then all of a sudden you spray some Krylon in there, and hey, look at that, Bronny's got a full head of hair, and then the next day it's gone. But I dig Kiper. I think he invented the draft. I really do. The draft was meaningless until Mel Kiper got involved, and while others have now capitalized on it and become draft analysts and are experts on everything that's happening. I dig the fact that they gave out a grade to every team on their first round pick, and it seemed like the shocker, as you might expect. Well, I mean, a couple of things, right? Your man Will Levis, who was supposed to be in the top 5, he's not even in the first round.
Which made sense. I love that Levis falls out as he should have, and Anthony Richardson goes 4. They're the same guy. One's a little bit more athletic, but they're the same dude. Big, strong guys, very raw, didn't play a lot, turn it over a lot, inaccurate. One's a little bit faster. I guess Anthony Richardson scores really high.
And Richardson is such a well-rounded athlete that I could see taking a chance on him. I don't know that the Colts are going to be happy that they drafted this kid or not. I would lean more towards yes. I think he's one of those guys that might blossom as a pro, as opposed to just not being prepared to play professional football. Jason Cole was telling us the other day on the show. I mean, he's only thrown like 300 passes as a collegiate. So,
well, and the one thing I'll say for Richardson is everyone has glowing sentiments about him as a person. He's a respectful.
seems like a very, very serious and well-rounded kid.
Takes football.
Not that you have to be serious to be well-rounded, but
quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a clown.
Good hand skills, all those things. Levis, we hear the opposite. Levis, people don't really talk about him as personality so much, and I feel like that's what pushed him out. Is they don't know if he's going to be a leader of men, and they feel like Richardson can be. I don't know.
Well, I mean, here's the other thing that's odd about it. The odds were dropping. I don't know how much influence DraftKings has or FanDuel on what teams actually do in the draft, but the odds had dropped, and he was actually the second choice to be the number 1 overall pick, Will Levis. As most people assumed that Bryce Young was going to be taken first with this Carolina pick that they traded up to get and sacrificed a lot for. They did take Bryce Young, who I found this surprising. Did you not? He is the first ever number 1 overall selection out of Alabama in history. First time an Alabama player has been selected number 1 overall, Bryce Young. Doesn't that seem odd? I mean, with all of the amazing talent that's filtered through there, not just with Nick Saban, but going all the way back to the Bear. You would think that they would have had a number one overall pick at some point in time, but hadn't happened before. Right? So Bryce Young becomes that. Bryce Young's diminutive stature scares me a little bit.
Just everyone.
I would be frightened about that. I genuinely would. Although he may turn out to be a great quarterback, have a terrific career. I'm not so sure. That's not the kind of guy that I think is destined for certain success in the NFL, and we know that that's very rarely true of anybody. That especially at the quarterback position, that there is certainty to make it. We've only seen a few guys that fit that category, and not everyone has fulfilled that kind of promise. So was that the logical choice at number one? They were going to take a quarterback, C.J. Stroud, who supposedly was dropping. I mean, the narratives that take place around draft day, often turn out to be total BS, right?
Bogus.
Yeah, because he ends up going number two. Houston takes a third pick as well.
Yeah.
So they traded themselves into a position to draft two guys back to back at the very top end of the draft. There were some that thought Stroud was a better pro prospect than Bryce Young. Remains to be seen if either of those guys actually make a dent.
Whereas Young, and I don't care what he listed at the combine, Young is like 5'10", 5'9",
Yeah.
180. Stroud is 6'2", 6'3", 210, 215. Like, that's the difference. Stroud has the frame where he has a broad shoulders where he could put on weight. Young doesn't have that. Young is slight, and Young is going to get injured, and he's not going to last long. Like, I just think he'll be good when he's there. Whereas Richardson's a big, strong dude. I don't know what he's going to be. Like, he needs so much that it's up in the air, and to take an up in the air guy at 4, I think is fucking stupid.
Who's the quarterback in the Colts right now?
No one. Remember, they had first Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan.
Yeah, they went to Matt Ryan, and Ryan was finished. Yeah.
Yeah, they're starting over. They're going to probably get another old man to be like the backup. And
Is Fitzpatrick coming back?
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe Hoyer. Maybe go get Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer, yeah. Maybe he'll come out of retirement. Didn't he just hang it up, Brian Hoyer, after 18 illustrious years? Oh, he did? All right.
Yeah, I thought he
All right. Well, anyway, I mean, it wasn't like there was anybody ready to jump off a bridge there, right? I guess Detroit shook it up because nobody takes a running back very high in the draft anymore. Yeah. And they took the running back out of Alabama, who seems to be a very versatile type. To be high-fived by Dan Campbell is a scary proposition.
Yes.
Did you see how hard he slapped a guy a high five after they drafted this running back, which most people thought was a mistake, or a bit of a Mel Kiper-esque type of reach? If the guy turns out to be a great player, though, see, I'm not one that goes, oh well, you could have had him at 19.
Well,
what are you taking him at 12 for?
With what running backs are now, and Bijan Robinson actually is a guy that can do everything. Yeah. Teams don't run it. And if they do run it, they have 3 guys. Even when you have elite running backs, you use 3 guys. So to have an elite running back is sort of stupid. 2 running backs, one in the top 12.
Yeah.
We're not drafting running backs high anymore, and 2 went in the top 12.
Very interesting all the way around. Jalen Carter, everybody considered that a pretty slick move. Somebody's got to take the problem child. He didn't fall quite as far as Warren Sapp did, who was anticipated to be certainly in the top 5, maybe the number 1 pick overall. And then fell to number 12 because of the supposed drug tests that were found in the drawer somehow mysteriously got lost in Dennis Erickson's desk drawer. And then when they were discovered, it was like Hunter Biden's laptop all of a sudden came out of some shop somewhere in Delaware. And everybody became concerned. This Jalen Carter, now, I mean, I don't know. Is it, absurd to, use a condonement like, young kids do stupid things? I'm not sure. Is this guy really a problem, or did he just do something really, really dumb in this drag racing episode after his team won the national championship, which, resulted in somebody being killed, although he was not in that car, but he was taking part in these activities, which led to somebody's death, a catastrophic tragedy. And I don't know, were charges filed? I guess he pled no contest to some form of, minor crime. That was related to this, and so I mean, was that enough to make you think, "Hey, I don't want this guy on my roster"?
I mean, obviously not. He went
top right.
He fell. Like, yeah, he fell. I'm like, he's top 10, and this thing's hanging over him. He didn't fall. Like, he's a defensive end. Like, defensive end can go from 5 to 10. It's rare you take a defensive end top 3.
And Philadelphia, they grabbed like another defender.
They did well. And what you notice is, they already had Jordan Davis. They already had Nakobe Dean, a linebacker. or he might. I think he's a safety from Georgia. They then take Nolan Smith,
Yeah,
a linebacker
late in the first round.
from Georgia. So what they're doing is surrounding this uber talent with his Georgia brothers to hopefully that means it'll keep him in check.
All right.
They're also really good players, and it's really annoying because the defense that was elite last year now, and they had some aging guys that they're going to lose. Okay, they'll just put. This is what good teams do, by the way, Miami Dolphins. Instead of just paying guys all the time, when Fletcher Cox goes on to either sign somewhere else or retire, you go and get Jalen Carter. See, use the draft to fill
Replenish with some youth. Guys that you can control for 4 or 5 years without having to pay an enormous amount of money to, so you can have other players on the team that have some ability. Why would you want to do that when you could have cocktails with Tom Brady? Steve, he's here.
They could have used a tight end, an offensive lineman.
Well, what a fucking joke that is, man. That's unbelievable.
They didn't even get the guy. Like
in the history of dumb Dolphin moves, that happens to be one of the most absurd I've ever seen.
Like at least the Patriots did the cheating, and it probably helped them win games.
Yeah.
When they lost picks, they lost a pick to not get a guy. They didn't even get him.
Didn't seem like they got very far with the guy either. I mean, Tom Brady. I don't know that he ever had any intention of coming here. He probably just was willing to listen to Stephen Ross's offer to own a piece of the team while he was, going out on his final swan song, which turned out to be not so celebrated. Right? Like Brady was even though he threw for a lot of yards last year, he seemed, sub of an ordinary quarterback by NFL standards last year, by the standards of the best of the best. All right, that'll do it for today's edition of Defo and 5. A lot of fun being with you as always. Appreciate it. Well, let's hang in there. I'm going to say, you say Panthers win tonight. I say Panthers lose tonight. That it ends in 6.
One of us will be right.
And Heat Knicks, toss up to me. I don't know. I mean, going to be pulling for the Heat naturally, but I don't know what to make of that series.
I don't know.
7-game series, and the Heat have to win at least one at the Garden. I believe they can do that. I think they're playing a little bit of a different brand of basketball than they were, even as recently as the Chicago play-in game. They seem to have awakened from the dead, this team, which is great.
Well,
all right. We'll see you next time on Defo and 5. Check us out on the Defo Show. That's coming up 7 o'clock on South Florida Live. Subscribe to that if you will. We'd be happy to have you on board, too, in addition to what we do here with the great Scoop Skolnick and the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Good luck, Heat fans, and we'll see you next time on Defo and 5.